In order for collaborative storytelling to take place in your tabletop RPG, you have to have a world that reacts to the players. In this video, we're going to be talking about system design, from reputation mechanics to alignment shifts. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Dungeon Brew.
Welcome back, everyone, to Dungeon Brew. Today we're continuing our series on collaborative storytelling, and specifically we're talking about system design. As the game master, you are the architect of this dynamic, reactive world, and system design is what focuses on how that world itself responds to the player's choices. You have to create this living environment where actions have consequences, and every decision, as well as the dice being rolled, is going to shape the story that's being told around the gaming table. So we're going to explore how this works and why it's so essential to immersive gameplay. So what is system design? Well, I want you to think of your tabletop role-playing game as a sandbox. We're going to continue using that analogy here. The players are the agents, or maybe even the disruptors, that are moving through that sandbox, building castles and stirring up the sand and changing the flow of the overall game that you have within that sandbox. System design is how you, as the game master, structure the world's reaction to their actions. It's about creating systems that handle action and consequences. What are the moral codes? What are the laws? What are the social structures of your world? And how does the environment react when the players challenge or align with those systems? Let's illustrate some of these concepts in RPGs in video games, because I think it's pretty easy to fall back on and see how these systems are built. So Fable is a really great example because the whole world starts to respond to you a little bit differently based on whether or not you're doing good or evil actions within that world. In fact, your very appearance changes within Fable based on the choices that you make as a player. Even in Skyrim, which is another great example, something as simple as attacking a chicken can provoke a response from the surrounding town in that region. When it comes to tabletop role-playing games, this system design goes a step further because you as the game master have the flexibility to tailor the world's reactions in real time based on what the players are doing. For instance, let's say that they are rushing through dialogue with a king. You can immediately adjust the king's tone, making him dismissive or even annoyed at the players. This kind of on-the-fly storytelling adds depth and it makes the world feel alive. But you as the game master have to make sure that you have these type of nuances already set up prior to sitting around the table, so you know how the world is going to respond to the players and how they choose to engage with that world. And that brings us to tools that you can utilize within the game to essentially track this type of progression with your players. The first one I want to talk about is a reputation system. Now, luckily, John actually created a reputation document that's on our Patreon. You can go there, follow for free, and download this for free to use it as a tool within your game. Reputation systems overall help you track how players are interacting with different factions or guilds or groups. If they are completing quests or making alliances or causing trouble, all these things can raise or lower their standing, affecting how NPCs treat them within that world. Reputation systems, I think, have been pretty standard within a lot of video game RPGs. No reason why we shouldn't be using them regularly in our TTRPGs as well. The second thing you may consider is using an alignment shift system within your game. Now, probably 10 years ago when we were gaming, we would have a tack sheet in regards to what behaviors players engaged in and whether or not that moved them further or closer on the continuum of good and evil or chaos and lawful. So you kind of had this array of where they shifted to based on how they interacted. If I had a chaotic character that was giving food to the poor, or I had a good character that was stealing something from a complex of some kind, this would shift their behavior one way or another, which would eventually actually cause issues if you had, let's say, a particular domain for your cleric, but it would also cause issues if you had an alignment with guilds or factions where you were supposed to engage in certain types of behaviors and you just didn't do well with it. Jonathan is currently working on another alignment system that we're hoping to use in the future, but this is a really great way to track this progress with your players. And the third tool that we like to incorporate in games is something to do with personality dynamics or a personality trait tool. John did adapt one from the Gazetteer titled The Northern Reaches that had several personality traits that were at extremes on a continuum that we use regularly within our games. And what we do is we roll a d20, and then that number dictates what our personality would be if we don't want to choose our own personality on the particular scale. So let's use the cautious versus rash option that's listed here. I roll a d20. If I roll a 2, it means that I'm probably going to be more cautious than I am rash. Or let's say that I'm trying to determine whether I'm going to be more forgiving or more vengeful, and I roll a 15. Chances are I'm going to be more vengeful than I am going to be forgiving. And as characters go throughout the campaign and they engage in actions, let's say a greedy character starts donating their wealth, then we would adjust the personality score by like maybe a D4 or a D3 to reflect that shift. The thing that I like about all three of these options is that it gives the players a sense of progression in the campaign and change in the campaign of their characters while reinforcing ideas that their choices really do matter. These are just some of the systemic consequences that you can incorporate within the game, but I do want to reiterate that the difference in a ttrpg is that it is flexible. It's not pre-programmed like video games that you may be playing. So as the GM, you have the ability to be dynamic and react naturally to the choices that the players are making. So again, if they're rushing through a conversation, your NPC may decide just to cut off giving them important information that they need to know, or just dismissing the party entirely. And this is what I think helps keep the players engaged in the game that they're playing, and it reminds them that all of their actions do have weight. I want to end today's video just by talking about flexibility and consistency. While it's true that you as the game master should be able to be flexible in responding to your players' choices, it's also important to know that consistency is important to the structure of the game. Players should know that there is a set of rules in which the world operates by, and that things aren't just changing arbitrarily. This is where system design and world building go hand in hand. It allows the players to see that the world is cohesive and that it is believable. So if you have a world that has a strict moral code or rigid laws, you want to ensure that those systems remain in place even if the characters make choices apart from them. This prevents them from feeling like the rules are just being bent in order to get the story to go into a particular direction. So if the characters start off by working for a king in a good land of law and order, and they decide to join the bad guys, that should have real world consequences. Maybe a militia is formed to go after them, or another band of heroes is seeking them out, and maybe they have to come to justice where they either have to go through a court and defend themselves, or maybe they're strung and hung. Whatever the case may be, those rules should stay intact throughout the campaign. Alright, so I hope that you enjoy where this series is going. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe button. And I hope to see you again next time. And also go check out our Patreon, where we have some free resources for game masters like you. See you next time.
Dungeon Brew.